Come on in, fellas. There's seats at my table. Come a little closer. There we are. Welcome to episode 7 of my Zero to Hero series. This is a series I created about 3 months ago where I've documented my journey climbing up the ladder within World of Warcraft PvP and overall just sharing my journey of getting better at this game. This is not the last episode of the series, as there still is a few weeks left of the season, and I hope that your push has been going well regardless of what rating goal you are trying to hit, be it 1800, 2100, your first gladiator, rank 1, whatever it may be. But I wanted to take a second to reflect before going into what's changed, and that is that it's been about 3 months. I created this series on Christmas Eve, and so much has changed, but it's been really cool so far because between the help that I've been getting from a lot of the folks in the comments, and episode 1 doing as well as it did, combined with getting to interact with some viewers in game, getting to interact with some of you guys on Discord, and overall expanding my social network over the past couple months, I have learned a significant amount about the game, about myself and my habits, and unlike other seasons in the past, I actually survived that sort of dark hour where I would just give up and quit for the remainder of the season. So this is a little bit of a new feeling for me. Being this late into the season, still playing, still actively trying to push. But I just wanted to give a quick thank you to everybody thus far that has helped along my journey. It's kind of weird though. I expected the journey to be like a solo journey and then build a team and have the happy ever after, but instead I started with a team and ended up by myself. And again, like I said in the previous episode, there wasn't like a sundering or anything, but I find it to be a very different story at this point in the game than I would have expected, like when I first started this series. So I don't know if I said this already, but I wanted to make this series just to kind of show the ups and downs, the actual authentic climb up a ladder, especially for somebody who's never been gladiator before, because you can get disillusioned from the people on Reddit or from multi-gladiators who've done this several times before, or by rank 1s who try to act like they know what it's like for the 1800 player or whatever rating you are that's lower than gladiator that most of us are, and really just show the authentic side of it. And I feel that I've mostly done a good job. There's things that I can do better with this series, like maybe showing some more losses, but overall I'm really happy and really thankful that I decided to pick this back up and keep continuing it regardless of what challenges I've encountered. And speaking of challenges I've encountered, let's get into what's changed from last week. Alright, so going into what's changed for episode 7, number 1 is that my 2 shamans have diverged in CR a little bit, so one is now higher than the other one tanked a little bit, and I have made the decision to go ahead and split the shamans to have a push shaman that will be the shaman that I get gladiator with, versus a team finder shaman where it's hanging a little bit below the push one, right? I'm not sweating necessarily as hard, but I can still use that to potentially find some teammates. Number 2, I started tracking my own diminishing returns. This has helped me a lot, especially when it comes to positioning and knowing whenever I'm going to be put in CC next, or when the enemy is looking to CC chain me so I can better prepare for that. I feel like the majority of the things I need to do are on autopilot now, to where I can add that to my UI and have it not be too much of an issue. You'll see it'll be right above my nameplate and to the left of my party bars whenever you look at my screen during the games. Lastly, I've been cleaning up my UI some. I thought I moved over the diminishing return tracker for the enemy team over enough to where my big debuffs wouldn't get in the way, but turns out they're still in the way. I didn't notice it until just recently, so I'm going to have to move that a little bit more to the left, closer to the center of the screen. But going off of this point is that the more simplified your UI is, the better you're able to process that information. You really don't need like 14 diminishing return trackers and like 15 weak aura add-ons telling you everything that's going on. It's just going to clutter your screen. It's going to make it a mess. Making it as simple as possible and then adding on a layer at the time is definitely going to help. I also want to take a minute to talk about compositions. So I mentioned about a few compositions that I would be playing and trying to limit myself to when climbing. That is not the case. I actually ended up playing with a Cupid. That was my first push comp. And then the games that I'm about to show you guys is going to be a shadow play that I was able to find in LFG. So I'm still going around in LFG, just looking for people to climb with. And I don't want to spoil too much of what's happening, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the games. So more often than not, what I've noticed is that whenever you hit a certain rating threshold, you're going to be playing against the same teams over and over. And while it does suck if you have to play against a counter comp, at least you have another opportunity to beat that team. So As you can see here, this affliction lock is just absolutely cranking the fuck out of my team, and we end up going down here. I'm trying to crank out as much HPS as I can, but unfortunately it's just not working, and we end up going down. So on the bright side, I'm just happy that I was able to squeeze out my mana bar for as long as I can, and be able to have a very high throughput for the entirety of the game. But as I said earlier, we happen to get another chance against this team, as seen coming up here. This is so sad. Let's race on SP. I'll push up mid pillar. Revenge is best served in the opener. Switch these two around. Give them some purge protection. So I think more of what I'm going to start doing is talking about the actual composition matchups that we're playing, just knowing what my role is versus the composition we're against, and pairing that with how it works on my team. I feel like this is better than just, you know, doing only music to my gameplay. This composition that we're fighting right here is DH-LE Resto Druid. It's a very popular EU comp, but sometimes we'll see it on NA too. NA tends to prefer DH Boomy. And shadow play versus this, ideally the shadow play is going to end up winning in the long run due to being able to out dampen the druid. Shadow play has a lot of good spread pressure for the team if you're playing with an affliction lock. Ours is more of a bursty kind of setup oriented shadow play with the demonology warlock here. But the thing is that if the Resto Druid is being pressured with multiple targets at the same time, it's very difficult for them to heal. And on top of that, as a restoration shaman, I know that elemental shamans will opt to burst with their primordial wave. And so if I throw out my grounding totem whenever I see that, I'll be able to stop a lot of their burst damage and a lot of their ramp, as well as just trying to be on top of dispelling flame shocks. It looks like in this game that I'm struggling to get my dispels off, and I think this may have only been my third or fourth game with the shadow play, so I was still trying to kind of figure out my role within the composition. Ideally, something I should be doing in this game too is going for hexes on the shaman, which I don't do a ton, or if I do, I get wind sheared. You never know when you can catch a Resto Druid off guard by not running Curse to Spell. And I think that's about it. I just need to outlast the druid when it comes to mana, and try to outlast him even if he does end up going for drinks. Unfortunately, stealth in a drink is pretty broken, so it's something I'm going to have to play around. And that is also why I decided to take Mana Tide Totem here. I don't think I'm running Mana Spring, but for more dampening oriented builds, I run Mana Tide Totem and I run Mana Spring. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and get to the audio of the rest of the matchup. Let me get the curse. Slapped and kicked. No, Shy doesn't gets kicked on Shadow. I didn't realize that the game ended up being as long as this was in the editing of this video, so I'm going to go ahead and skip to the end to save you several more minutes of just doing the same thing. Gosh, please, please, please. Yes. Oh. Alright, so this game here we're playing against an elemental shaman and a balanced druid. Now, right here I do something that's a really big blunder, and that is trading out my spirit walk too early. My thought process behind it was that I thought I was going to pre-spirit walk the root beam that would be on myself and my shadow priest at the same time, because we were both stacked and us both being kicked or silenced would be really bad for the start. However, despite this and it ended up setting a full root beam later, I think I'm able to pull off a pretty good recovery here. Fix their guy. Of course, their shaman trinket right off the rip. I use spirit walk way too early. I was really late on getting that set up. I'll keep it a buck. Dude, pretty much smoking him. Oh, we actually just smoked that boomy. How about that? Like I said, guys, I'm the CEO of kidnapping. I meant it. Alrighty guys, so I got another DHLE game for you guys with a Resto Druid Healer variant. Again, this should be a pretty simple win for us as long as we are able to out-dampen the Druid and not let him get off any drinks. However, something really bad happens here, and that you'll see it a little bit later on where the lock does not press Unknitting Resolve while there is damage coming out. So this leads to a really nasty overlap where the Priest trades out Life Swap and I trade out Spirit Link Totem and my Trinket at the same time. It's really important that you are rotating through your defensive cooldowns proportional to how much damage you're taking, and if you do have a damage reduction cooldown, such as a wall, especially one that you can use in a stun, it's imperative that you use that while you're at high HP to get the maximum value out of it, else you'll have to be playing from behind, and that's never really a good spot to play from. Keep maximizing that throughput on myself. A little bit scared for my lock. I really need him to trade. Got a quick healing surge on him, swapping the shield over, dispelling him. And I got an earthen wall down at the marker, as per usual. Just dispelling that shaman real quick. Let's see, we got the Tremor in my lock. Horrified. Just keep maximizing my throughput. Ooh, I got CS, it's not good. I think the NS will top us here. Yeah, I do have Primordial Wave. Cool. Got a lasso for this DH here. Need the Hex though. Got a Link. And we trade swap, and he still doesn't wall. Wall earlier, this. We just made a, like, the lock is just not walling as early as I'd like, and as a result, we have to trade out way too many cooldowns for it. They just killed my healing tide there, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And I guess I'm okay with kind of baiting them out. Oh, I'm stunned. Finesse. Alright. I'm gonna keep maximizing our throughput, throw grounding down. The rest of Druid I think went for a drink. He's able to get a little bit off. Trying to go for a stun here on the Shaman. Shaman is so prime right now. Tagging him. Hex full. Yeah, he got kicked, so that dispersion's gonna be coming out a little bit late. get max throughput. Please, 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 Dark Pact, please. NS. I have sense back up, I gotta press it. Gotta dispel that. I'm trying my absolute damnedest. I'm just gonna get this clone off. Alright. Into this guy? I wall myself here. For the DH. There should be sufficient cross. We need to kill like yesterday. Nice, got the link off. Eesh. Going for it. Oh my gosh, the last one misses. Nice, we killed the shaman. The last game I got for y'all for this week is going up against Draco Cleave. So the big thing that you want to know with Draco Cleave is that, at least as a resto shaman, if you're able to get up your totems like your double healing stream, your healing tide, and your double earthen before they're able to get their go off, then you'll be fine. You'll be chilling. And if anything, your DPS may have to trade like one minor cooldown in order to live. However, if they get the open on you and you don't have anything set up, it could be very scary and you'll have to press a lot of cooldowns in the opener. Now, Draco Cleave generally has a setup or a kill attempt every minute, with every other minute being super scary amounts of damage. So it's important that you trade efficiently and you trade well. Their opener damage is going to be the most scary in the game, so I would even err on the side of being more liberal with your cooldowns, and then using the window of time that they're trying to reset in order to get another setup on you guys as your opportunity to kill them. This is why I personally like playing against Draco Cleave as opposed to trying to play as Draco Cleave, is because after their setup, it's on them to live, and they're free real estate if we can get a really good pinch on them. Virgin this. Grabbing on a line of their healer, and I'm gonna hex out of that here. Or just rune behind the pillar too, that works. Yeah, I can't get the hex on him like I want. Reset. I know he's trying to say reset gate. Man. They'll probably beat us first. I think I can keep him up here. Alright, next one's gonna be scary. Yes. Yes! For the sake of time, and also because I've been doing a kind of miniature VOD review within each game that I decided to show, I'm actually going to go ahead and omit a full VOD review from this episode, but I really want to jump into the results and the lessons learned because I've got some really exciting things to say, so we'll just jump right over to that. Alright, so for episode 7, we had 2 separate push sessions. We had one with a Cupid, where we went from 2070 to 2122, and through that we actually did achieve our duelist, at least in the 3v3 bracket for this season. And then, we played around on our alt shaman for a little bit, but finally, we were able to begin a push session out of duelist for the first time since I began this series, and that being said, I'll just go ahead and let myself reveal the results of that second push session to show you where I'm at. Whew. Fellas, we are now a 2200 rated Resto Shaman, and we're playing at 2300 MMR. But yeah, guys, in a crazy turn of events, I was actually able to hit 2210 doing shadow play there. It's kind of crazy how I was going from like hard stuck in the 1900s for months to just now being able to climb hundreds of CR in the matter of only a few weeks. But I can definitely say that I felt the most locked in that I felt all season, and I feel like, unlike the past, I'm actually in a spot where I can hang with the gladiator players and beat gladiator players. It's fascinating that I'm able to look these guys up and see that a lot of these people have really prestigious titles and I'm able to win against them. Like, it's a really big confidence boost. But with that being said, let's just jump right into the lessons learned because I got some really good ones this week. All right, everybody, welcome back to everybody's favorite segment, the lessons learned. So kicking it off this week, lesson number 1 is that the gap from duelist to gladiator really is not that big, like, at all. Like, if a duelist is performing well on a good day, there's a really good chance that they're going to beat a gladiator player who is having an average day or maybe a not so hot day. And this is because realistically, the main difference between a duelist and a gladiator is consistency. A duelist player often has the fundamentals needed to succeed at the game, such as knowing the fundamentals of crowd control, damage, healing, defensive trading, etc. But a gladiator player has spent more time just refining that and getting that together. I've also noticed too that there were 6-time gladiator players I was playing with that would lose matches from not pressing wall. So that was a very humbling experience that the higher I climb, the more gladiators I end up playing with, because there just happens to be more gladiators at that elo bracket. And I've realized that they are people too. I think in this journey, I definitely put gladiator as a title on like a pedestal and gave it this kind of unrealistic, fanatical expectation, when realistically it is still a difficult achievement to get, but it's a lot more attainable than I think I would have realized, at least for myself, given my 3 years of playing the game, playing Resto Shaman, playing a shit ton this season, etc. And that leads me into my second point, is that healing becomes easier the higher you are. Well, what do I mean by this? So healing, I will say, is very difficult between the 1800 to like 2k bracket. So basically all of Rival 1 and most of Rival 2. And this is because this is the bracket where players are more familiar with their damage and cooldown trading and crowd control, etc. But they're not super familiar with coordination or knowing their role and how a team composition works. So as a result, you'll get a really uncoordinated mess, and this will be more often than not the time that you'll sit in the most crowd control of any bracket, because your team's not going to peel for you. They're not going to use your utility to get you out of crowd control to enable you so that you can enable them back. Instead, they'll go and die behind a pillar and blame you for sucking at healing. So for all my healers out there, it really does get better the higher you go up, because the DPS, again, they just know their role better and they understand that this is a team game. This is not a solo game where you need to just pump the most DPS and that's how you're going to win. Number 3 is that networking is key. I honestly don't remember what I've used in my previous weeks, but if I've used this one before, I'm going to use it again because, man, social networking is just such a powerful ability. Being able to be a good teammate to be around, and also just using your connections to connect with more players. I guess the best way I could describe it is like it is a web that keeps expanding outwards. And so you have players that know other players that can get added to your network, but sometimes those players don't work out, or sometimes yourself and somebody you've been playing with for a while don't work out because you're progressing at a different rate than that player. That's completely fine, but maybe his friend is progressing at the same rate that you are. Somebody made a really good post on climbing long term using LFG on Reddit, or at least it was like a comment to a reply or something like that, but I really might do a whole video analyzing that because it just emphasizes the importance of networking, which is a large part of climbing the ladder too. And last but not least, I've noticed that in these games going into the higher MMR, so like the 2.2, 2.3k MMR bracket, is that mana becomes a lot more important. I've noticed myself switching to more dampening builds by taking like Mana Spring and Mana Tide Totem and winning because I'm able to outlast the other healer and also just heal more efficiently with the mana that I have. This is because, especially when you get to the higher ratings too, is that people will know how to trade their cooldowns to where they will be able to live basically every go. Sometimes damage is just way too high, or sometimes they get a really good setup, but more often than not, the games are coming down to who can outlast the other team. So that's going to be it for the lessons learned this week. Because I already revealed the results earlier before going into this, I'll actually just close out the episode here. But before you go, I'd like to ask you a question. What is your favorite comp to play in 3v3 Arena and why? For me, I think it's gotta be Shadow Play for now. I just really love the Shadow Priest utility. Hell, I may end up marrying a Shadow Priest at this point, because the synergy with Resto Shaman is just so good. But until next time, this is Moon, signing out.